Hello, I'm Fred Evans. Welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. Metro is continuing its project to repair the whole system in as short a time as possible. Brian Karem, the executive editor of the Sentinel, will report on its progress. The Montgomery Housing Partnership always has new ideas about providing housing to people in need in our county. Robert Goldman, the executive director, will bring us up to date. The July issue of the Beacon has some interesting stories about your money. Stuart Rosenthal, the editor and publisher, has the information on them as well as other news that is included. The new superintendent of schools is on the job and preparing for the new school year. Jane DeWinter, who comments regularly for this program, will fill us in.
Fred, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, I didn't take the Metro, so I'm doing okay.
No. Tell us about what is going on. There's so much in the news right now.
There is a lot. Well, I mean, there's been fires and floods and feast and famine and everything but the plague of locusts. Starting in August, they're going to be closing a lot of the Red Line, and it's going to be very difficult for, in fact, if you get on at Shady Grove or at Rockville, they're saying there's only going to be 3 trains an hour at those 2 locations. So we're
all day?
All day. So if you get on, they're recommending you move it on down the line. So that's going to cause some traffic problems since Rockville and Shady Grove are 2 of the most popular stations in which to board the Metro. They also have hired a new COO, and they're laying off 500
Chief
other
Operating
officer,
right.
and or COO for short, as in cuckoo. No, but and they're going to lay off 500 workers while they're trying to repair the lines. And it's the continuing. I mean, it's almost like a Marx Brothers movie. Watching them try to put this together, living in a first world nation with a third world, mass transit.
Well, they probably don't need as many drivers if they're not running trains, right?
I recommend they get rid of their whole PR department because they never answer a phone anyway. But that's another, and that is one of the big problems. A lot of people don't even know about the closures and how it's going to affect them on the Red Line in Montgomery County. The Metro has been very ineffective in getting out the information to riders, and that's not unusual. It doesn't pale because I mean it pales in comparison to some of the other things they do, but they're not very transparent. They don't communicate well, particularly with the media, and they're running with their tail between their legs, still trying to figure out what's going on and how bad is it going to be.
Well, aside from like having major coverage in the Sentinel, what else works these days to get out to like the entire metro area?
I mean, there's no. It's the same. Well, same thing we do. Facebook, tweet. Hey, how about put a flyer out to the riders and let them know coming in a couple of weeks this is going to happen. But they're so ineffective in every aspect of managing the metro that it's not surprising that they haven't really been real good at telling us what the problems are.
Do you think the cutbacks are a good idea because they're getting rid of people who haven't been doing their job well, or is it a bad idea because they won't have enough people to do the repairs?
I think it's at best it's a bad PR move as you're trying to repair the metro, going, oh, by the way, we're going to lay off 500 people, even if some of it is by attrition. Maybe it's just a PR problem. I don't manage metro, so I couldn't tell you if it's really a good idea. I can just tell you that they probably could have handled it a little bit better, and they probably would want to get some of the repairs done, I would think, especially if some of these people are involved in repairing the metro. It's an ongoing problem that's not getting any better. They tried to blame the floods on sewage problems or backup sewage. WSSC they tried to blame for their problems when Cleveland Park flooded, and be that as it may, the metro is just overwhelmed with a number of problems they've been very ineffective in solving.
If we struggle through all this, at the end of the day, through all these fixes or whatever, is it going to make a difference?
Yeah, you probably won't ever take the metro again. I mean, the idea is hopefully that it gets better, but it's going to be a good year to 2 years before we actually see that. And particularly for people in Montgomery County, once you develop a habit in commuting, the risk is, do you go back to using the metro? You know what it was like before. Eventually you'll give it a shot, but I mean, you're going to see a higher traffic pattern. I'm telling you, up and down the Pike, 270, it's not going to be a picnic.
Do you think that in the big picture of things, is one of the big problems with metro the fact that there are how many different jurisdictions?
Yeah, 6 different jurisdictions
six.
at least that manage it,
that are
ineffective
involved.
management. and top heavy in management.
And there was just
And not
something
transparent.
that came out in the Post this week about somebody who had been newly appointed to the Metro Board having some serious conflicts of interest.
Well, that was shock.
No, I know, but I mean, this is a new appointee, and that he's representing. His law firm represents the Metro workers.
Well,
so
that just speaks
Now,
again.
who is in? Well, not to get into too much detail, we don't have that much time. But who is in charge of appointing that person?
that was from the United States Department of Transportation.
The
that
problem
was their
is
So they're on
that's-
the-
They're
the
on
problem
it, yeah.
is when you have that many
Wow.
government entities overseeing Metro, management that has traditionally not been very strong, it's a recipe for disaster. Now they hope that Paul Wiedenfeld, the new guy, is strong, and he's shown. I mean, he has taken a bull by the horns.
yeah.
I'll give him that, and hopefully, what he does creates a better Metro. To your question, at the end of the day, but you still have the problem of 6 different, jurisdictions overseeing this Metro, and like people say, you live in Philly, you live in New York, you're used to the trains run on time.
In the time
Not
that
here.
remains, what should Janice or Joe Citizen do to
and-
get information about?
Well, you're going to
these
have to go to
closures?
their website, go to our website, thesentinel.com. Hopefully they're tweeting out, but they're not, and they haven't put anything on Facebook that we've seen. I mean, you are going to have to be a consumer and a proactive consumer. You're going to have to find out and go and look and see where the maps are. We've published them. They are on the websites with Metro, and see when and where the shutdowns and the single tracking is going to occur. Because I guarantee you, starting in August, if you take the red line and it's normally 45 minutes to Metro Center from Rockville, you're going to be taking 2 hours.
Okay. On that note,
Yeah.
let's go to
positive note.
housing. Welcome.
Great to be here, and we're very excited. It's an exciting time for Montgomery Housing Partnership. We're a private nonprofit that develops affordable housing for the last 26 years in Montgomery County, and we are a finalist, one of 6 finalists in the nation for an exciting new project that we developed about a year ago called the Olney Springs, which provided 114 for-sale homes in Olney. 30% was affordable, 30% was to the next group of workforce folks, and then 40% market rate units. So
Can you define affordable?
yeah,
for our
affordable we
audience?
typically refer to around 60% of the area median income, probably a little over $60,000 or less, and those are the families that, really less than that, you really begin to struggle to make ends meet. So we set aside a portion for them, a portion at the next level, that's sort of what we call workforce housing, sort of up to about 120% of area median income, and then 40% market rate. So it's a great a mix of incomes, great property, great, it just has a lot of amenities and
Robert,
playgrounds and other things.
So how does this work? People pay less than going rate for the actual buildings, or they pay less than a month? They have better financing, or what do they
Yeah,
get?
so basically the house will sell for less than market rate. So we peg it at what somebody at, let's say, $60,000, what they can afford to buy in terms of a house. And so we
And all the houses are equally good.
Yeah,
They're
all of
priced
them are-
market
yeah.
rate
neighborhoods,
and
I mean-
all the same neighborhood, all intermixed.
You said only Springs.
Only
obviously
Springs,
Only Maryland.
only Maryland. It's on a county-owned land that was actually designated as surplus land, and the county said we want to have affordable housing on this site, and it began a system of the county beginning to look at their land, and so the next project, which we're just opening and having a ribbon cutting on July 13th, is the Bonifant, in which the county went to the next step, not just taking one big parcel of land and saying affordable housing there, but they took a parcel of land where they were going to do the Silver Spring Library, the new library that opened about a year ago, and so let's co-locate more than one amenity. So we got the library, and then we've got a 149-unit senior building that we just opened up.
And what's
the
I'm sorry. Go
And the
ahead.
Purple Line will have
Yeah.
a stop right in the middle of the site. So there's actually 3 public amenities right on this
The
one
Purple
site.
Line when
it comes, but
Another discussion.
yes, exactly. But
Are we
it's
talking Metro? Is-
All right, all right.
Yeah, but what it's really providing for seniors, it's public transportation
Right.
nearby. They've got 2 grocery stores within walking distance. They've got the movie theater, all the amenities of downtown Silver Spring, all within walking distance. They can take advantage of the library and all the programming out of the library. Library's actually going to have a nonprofit that's doing IT stuff, and they're going to work with the residents. So it's a great opportunity for residents, both from a location standpoint, but also from amenities and services.
When will that be available for occupation?
So we started opening. We opened about a month ago, and we're doing the ribbon cutting on July 13th. We still have some units available, and if folks are interested, they can go to thebonifant.com and get more information. But it's an exciting project.
So are you going to have a continuing relationship? I know that on your housing units that are near Big Learning on Arcola and I can't remember the name of the other street, but
Amherst.
Amherst, yeah, right. You're running programs there for the kids and whatever. So are you going to be doing something like that?
Absolutely. So one of the hallmarks of Montgomery Housing Partnership is that we're not just about the housing, but we want to bring services to the housing place, what we sort of call place-based services. So for our family properties, we have preschool programs, we have after-school programs for elementary school kids. We have, for adults, we have computer classes, ESOL classes, so a wide variety of activity. And so for the seniors, this is actually our first senior property, so we do have a service coordinator that we've hired for it. That property, we've just surveyed all the residents to kind of understand their needs and understand, whether it's sort of health activities or bingo night or other things, but a wide variety of activities we'll have for the seniors. But one of the things, now that we're sort of end of the school year, I'm really excited, just they asked about services. The kids in our after-school programs have seen their GPAs go from about 2.8 to now a 3.5 over a 6-year period.
How do you qualify?
I can't sorry.
That's
Go ahead.
how do you qualify for that? What's the process?
For the Bonifant and any others, you come in, you do it like any other application. We check incomes, and so the only difference between any other apartment would be you have to meet certain income requirements, both
Right.
upper and lower. And
in the about 20 seconds that remain, where do you see the future in terms of housing? What's going on?
We have great needs. The need for housing is about 45,000 units now, and it's going to grow to 62,000 by 2030. So there's a growing need. We need to take more advantage of public land and co-location of housing. We're doing police stations or fire stations or libraries and things like that because there's a growing need.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Stuart, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us about money.
Okay, we have, as usual, a whole money and law section, and a couple of stories I want to talk about today. One is about startups. There have been some changes to the regulations that govern how small-time investors can invest, and now anybody can go and buy in stock in a startup if the startup is using one of the regulations that the SEC has now provided.
Now, who governs at the SEC?
The SEC, right. So on their website, you can look up all the different companies and find out the financial information because they want to make it more possible for ordinary people to look these kinds of things up. But they do have limitations on how much you can invest. If you make less than $100,000 a year or have less than $100,000 in net assets, then you can only invest $2,000 a year in startups. So they're trying to keep it down, and the reason is because it's sort of a gamble. I mean, any kind of business, new business is a gamble, but especially these startups in these tech fields where a lot of people are investing. You may go onto a website now and you'll see, in addition to looking up whatever you want to buy on there, buy stock, join us as we grow, or, there's a lot of promotion going on right now to encourage people to buy stock in the companies.
How much of this is in response to like the GoFundMe and?
Absolutely. Yeah, Kickstarter and all these things.
Explain what GoFundMe is.
I'm not. Originally, for the past, 10 years or so, there have been these websites that allow ordinary people to help fund new businesses, but it's not stock.
Right.
You don't own a business interest. You just contribute. It's a contribution. It's not even tax-free.
And there's no obligation.
I don't think. No.
Well, from the part of the owner.
No. Often they'll say we're developing this project or this product and we need some help. And you say, I think it's a good product. I want to help you. Here's $25. Here's $50. And they may give you a discount on the product when it comes out. It'll give you a first chance at buying it.
But there's also things that people, there's a GoFundMe because somebody died and we don't have enough money to
Could
raise.
be personal reasons as well.
Funeral
Isn't this move though directly because of GoFundMe and
I
things
think
like
there
that.
was a push from the community at large saying, well, we want to actually invest in these
Invest,
companies.
right.
We want to get a chance to get on the ground floor of the next big thing. The problem is there are 1,000
Yeah.
things that crash for the next big thing that happens.
So it would have been good to get on with Facebook. or
Absolutely, that would have
Twitter
been
or
a smart one,
something.
right?
Yeah. Or maybe what people should do is instead of putting 2,000 in one company, put $50 in
lots. That's a
in
good
a lot
idea.
of them, you know,
good
and maybe
idea.
one of them will hit. But so it sounds like what's being done now is a reaction to GoFundMe, but it's got sort of at least there's some bare requirements that
Right,
if you
there's some
go to that
regulations
site, you
about it.
know that
Right.
at least you can
Well,
see
yeah, and that's been one
accurate
of the big,
information.
one of the big, I guess, knocks against the stuff that you can do online is that, as you said, there's no responsibility. There's, you get nothing in return except maybe a discount
Right.
if something hits. At
Right,
least
right.
here they've kind of legitimized the effort a little
So
bit.
we have another money story that
Go ahead.
affects
Yeah, tell
more
us.
people, and that has to do with mutual funds in general. There are thousands and thousands of mutual funds. Some of them are managed very heavily and charge a lot of fees. Some of them are index funds that charge almost no fees, and there are lots in between. So the question is, what's the best way to invest? How do you pick that out? Morningstar, probably the best known independent research institution for
research
right
corporation.
for investments, had a phenomenal study where they analyzed 5 different categories of mutual funds, everything from foreign stocks to municipal bonds and all kinds of different funds. And they ranked them in each category by fee, lowest fee to highest fee in five steps. And then they compared the returns over the last year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Almost invariably, throughout the entire test, the lowest fee fund had the highest return, and the highest fee fund had the lowest return, and everything else in between was along the same lines. That it almost looked like it was the fees that determined how much money you made in the long run, not the
But
not who managed the fund.
was it gross return or the net return? That basically, if you had a high fee fund, it was taking enough out to sort of counteract, even if they had been doing better.
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that
Yeah,
question.
okay.
I haven't read it that closely, but I could just say that they do make it clear that you don't just want to look at fees, and there are other things to look at, but for the long run, if you compare, you might say, well, this fund has outperformed, this manager has been great for all these years. That may be true, but in the long run, the fees tend to win out because they were looking at a
Lower fees.
lower fees, right? Because it compounds your gains. If
Right.
you're paying 0.2% for instead of 1% for fees, that 0.8 that you're saving, gets invested and compounds on itself every year, and there's
Very
that much more to keep investing. Yes.
Now, what other stories in the? We got
Oh,
about,
very interesting health story. You have some time?
Yeah,
Okay.
we got about 30 seconds.
Oh my goodness, that's too quick. Well, nitrates, everybody's concerned
Oh,
about
nitrates,
nitrates
right.
because they were considered to be
Cancer.
cancer causing. People think it's for years they've said that. Turns out there are more nitrates in vegetables than in cured meat. In fact, 80% of our nitrates
So
in our diet
celery?
comes from celery and parsley and lettuce and whatnot. And only
I like
6%
celery
comes
and
from
peanut
cured
butter.
meats.
Am I okay?
Wait, let him finish.
So one of the things they say though is that what's problem is not the nitrate, the sodium nitrate, it's
Right.
the nitrosamines they become in your system, your body makes them into. And vitamin C and other antioxidants prevent that from happening. So maybe the good thing is the vegetables, they have the nitrates, but they also have the vitamin C and that counteracts it. So I guess the answer is drink a glass of orange juice with your pastrami and maybe you'll be better off.
And on that note, we will go to the school system.
Okay.
Hi, Jane.
Hello.
Welcome. New superintendent in the
Right.
Montgomery County Public Schools, our 156,000 student, 17th largest school district in the country. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen?
Well, Jack Smith took over on July 1.
Right.
I know that he actually was in the building the week before, getting
central office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
central office. Yeah, on Hungerford Drive, and I think that we're not going to see. He's not coming in to like do major things that are going to happen by September, but I think that we are going to see more of a reliance on data that the central office had felt that under Josh Starr, a lot of the changes that Jerry Wiest had made with data collection and using data to drive decisions had been kind of I don't necessarily want to be as strong as fell by the wayside, but were minimized or less important. So I think we're going to see, ramping up in terms of providing data and using data. I do know that there are some changes in the partnership office, and there's going to be even more reorganizations also that are going to be taking place.
Is this going to be rearranging the deck chairs? Or is
Some of it
Well, they
is
added
like
2 new assistant superintendents this week, I believe.
Yeah, and then they are going to make changes. Well, they have already made changes in the Office of Community Partnerships, which was kind of a standalone thing under Tim Warner. Well, Tim is gone, and what they've done is that the parent community coordinators, which are mostly bilingual and who worked really with families and at the local school level, they've all been moved to the Office of Student Services. And then the other elements of community partnerships, which they see as, working with businesses, working with people who might be willing to underwrite some programs, and MCPS, that's being moved to the Office of the Superintendent.
Well, I know one of the biggest issues that they're afraid of when you talk about data-driven teaching is, and there are a number of different minority groups particularly that are concerned about the gifted and talented programs, and all right, so if we allocate those by blacks 11%, whites so many percent, Hispanic Americans so many percent, the Asian American population is very concerned that even though they may score better, they're not going to have as many representatives in the gifted and talented. And
Well,
that
data-driven
scores
isn't the same
well, I
as
mean, that's
quotas,
the big issue.
but-
Yeah, the big issue is because of the data, the quotas are going to be installed, and that people are not going to be represented. It's not really going to be a gifted and talented program anymore. I know that's a huge issue he's going to have to face.
Well, I know that there is unhappiness within. the Asian community has expressed fears of that's something that what went on in California in the state university system, where there's restrictions on the number of Asian students who can be in these programs. I know there's fears. That's not what's going on. I do know that there is a lot of concern within the school system about increasing the number of really Latino and African American students in those programs. But while they've been approaching it now is to start at a lower level. Last summer they started and they ran a STEM camp, STEM program at half of the Title I schools. They paired schools, and that was really, and also tried to get parent involvement because they felt like, okay, those students don't have aren't tied into the same information networks, whatever. Let's get kids, let's get families involved early on so that they know the opportunities. We do know that a lot of kids from, I guess I'll just say the western part of the county, they have their kids working with a tutor who's giving them IQ tests multiple times before they take the GT testing. So some of this is trying to, at a younger age, get kids, into the loop and get them more focused on that.
I think the other big issue he's going to face is the budget. They're raising taxes in the county to help pay for the school budget. There's been a lot of pushback from people who think that there hasn't been enough accountability in the school budget. So I know that those are the two big issues.
I've heard
they
that a
face.
few times before.
Yeah, over the years.
Maybe a few.
For the past 46 years.
I do think that people
it's
that
maintenance of
that you
effort
but
issue.
also this year, specifically, the tax increase was tied to seeing a difference in the classroom and class size, and that better happen. One other thing I wanted to throw out there, because
Got
this
about
is
a minute?
something that's
Yeah.
just
Okay.
happened, and that this is actually not for the 16-17 school year, but the draft calendar for the 17-18 school year has just been released. And so there's a calendar committee, puts together a draft, it goes out there for public comment, so it's out there now for public comment, and it's proposing that schools start 2 weeks before Labor Day and get out at the end of, actually this 18, it would
That'll
be,
go over like a lead
it would
balloon.
be a week after Memorial Day. And the stated intent is so that seniors have another week to study for AP exams in August.
On that note, I'm sorry we'll have
Yeah.
to cut it off, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
watch. 2 weeks before Labor Day.
Yeah.
Thank you all of you, for joining me this week. And thank you for joining all of us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Fred Evans. Please join us next week at this same time.